Shabbat Shalom, and this is 10 Minutes of Torah. Not 9 different ways that you can discover skin diseases and problems on your body, and not 11 ways to find all sorts of moldy problems in your house, but 10 Minutes of Torah. Now, I bring up those other two kind of strange examples, the 9 and the 11, the skin diseases and what you can find in your house, because that is in essence what the Torah is talking about. But this 10 Minutes of Torah is not going to talk much about them except to summarize them. So this week, the Torah portion is what I always refer to as a double header, especially in baseball season. 2 Torah portions at once. They are Tazria and Mitzorah. Now, you might ask, why do we read 2 Torah portions? And why is it that in some years those Torah portions are separated? Well, it has to do with the calendar. Of course, there's only a certain number of Shabbatot available during the year. And when we have a leap year in Judaism, we add an entire month, which is 4 extra Shabbatot. So it means that in a non-leap year, we are in a non-leap year, those 4 Shabbatot that had their own Torah portions have to be doubled. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but it means that you're going to at least have 4 times during a regular year where you have a double portion, and this is one of them, Tazria and Mitzorah. And they go together. First of all, Tazria starts out, the word Tazria actually has to do with giving birth, becoming pregnant. But it expands beyond that, sorry to use that metaphor for those who might be pregnant, but it does indeed expand beyond that, because Tazria is not just about being pregnant and giving birth, although having a brit milah, a bris, on the 8th day is mentioned, of course, here. It's about the reaching over, if you will, by the woman who's going to give birth, reaching over into the area of pre-living, if you will, and bringing that child into life, whether it's a boy or girl, different laws for each on how long the woman is tameh, that she is impure, and how she becomes tahor, she becomes clean once again. Really interesting concept. That's how it begins. Most of the rest of Tazria, though, does indeed deal with skin diseases. Now, why would the Torah talk about skin diseases? After all, it doesn't seem to be a great ethical or moral principle. It doesn't seem to be anything about a holiday. It's not about the narrative. Well, the answer is that skin diseases at the time of the Torah, even today, were something that there was great concern about, especially it spreading. And there was a quasi-religious sense to that. Another time we will talk about the relationship between having different kinds of illnesses and our acts. I think there is nothing directly connected to the two. That's a short version of it, but more complicated than that. So it wanted to make sure that the person who had a skin disease, and it describes different types and what you have to do and how you then go to the Kohen eventually in order to become purified once you've been separated out from the rest of the people so that it doesn't spread. That's really Tazria, giving birth, and then skin diseases. And I say skin diseases and not leprosy, even though often it is translated as leprosy, because the likelihood is that the diseases that are described in the Torah are not leprosy. They don't have all of the different aspects of that, but they were originally translated as leprosy, because that was, of course, the most, I think, terrifying skin disease. So you'll know it's not leprosy, but still skin diseases they were concerned about. And then the second Torah portion, Mitzorah, continues with the same subject matter and eventually goes over into those 9 things that I mentioned. That is, ways you can find in your house something similar, almost like a house that has a skin disease. And there too, you don't want it to spread in the community. Probably different kinds of molds. I mean, we encounter them today. It's as old as time, literally. And so once again, it talks about how do we purify that and the relationship between the invasion of our house by this kind of a moldy disease type of thing and making it pure once again. Very interesting, difficult subject matter. So therefore, we'll deal with it next year. But this year, I want to talk instead about the counting of the Omer, because that is exactly what we are doing right now, and the basis for the counting of the Omer. Now, the counting of the Omer is first taught to us in a Torah portion we read over Pesach. That is the Torah portion from the book of Leviticus, same book we are in now, from Emor. And what does it say there? It says, Usfartem lechem memacharat hashabbat. You're supposed to count, right here in this book. You're supposed to count, it tells you, from the day after. So here it says Shabbat. We've always understood it as the day after rest, which meant the day after the first day of Pesach. You count, and it says, how long do you count for? You count for a total of 49 days, complete days. And the counting of the Omer is the counting of the barley harvest. In ancient times, you couldn't just simply take a harvest and eat it and grind it and whatever else you're going to be doing to that barley. No, in ancient times, you had to first give thanks to God. You had to literally desacralize. You had to say, okay, God, we know that barley grows in the ground and some miracle of the earth causes it to happen that you, God, are certainly a part of. So we want to give great thanks for that. So we spend the 49 days of the barley harvest counting those days until it is completed 7 weeks later. And of course, you see that such an incredible symmetry. 7 weeks, 7 days, and of course the holiday at the end of those 7 weeks of 7 days is called Shavuot, which means weeks. So there's certainly a connection between the name of the holiday, Shavuot, and the fact that we are counting 7 complete weeks. And the mystics, I could spend a whole class, but again, we'll wait for another time, on talking about the mystical symbols that were seen in this counting, the symmetry, 49, because, of course, our tradition has it that on Pesach we were freed from slavery, and on Shavuot, although it doesn't say this directly in the Torah, the rabbi said on Shavuot we received the Torah. Well, 49 days of preparation, complete and holy preparation that involved being ready to receive the Torah. Again, much more to think and to talk about. But the Omer, so we do. The Torah tells us to count the Omer and to count every day. So that's one part of the counting of the Omer that I want to separate out. It's called often in Hebrew Sfirata Omer, just means the counting of the Omer, or sometimes you'll hear it referred to as Sfira. This means counting. There's another aspect to the counting of the Omer, or the time of the Omer really, that has nothing to do with what's in the Torah, but what developed historically. What developed historically is that this was a time of a year where there were great battles between the Romans and the Jews. And in particular, it seems that the students of one of the most famous rabbis, Rabbi Akiva, 24,000 of them, the Gemara tells us, 24,000 of them died in a plague. Now, I mention the Romans because most people think that plague was the Roman army. Regardless, 24,000, and it doesn't matter if the number is exact, students of Rabbi Akiva, the Torah could have been destroyed. And so in recognition of that, ever since the time of Rabbi Akiva died in the year 134, that's a long time ago, but ever since then we've had the custom of refraining from extra moments of joy during the Omer. Even though the Torah doesn't tell us that, history said, how can we rejoice when the students of Rabbi Akiva have suffered so much? Well, that suffering let up on the 33rd day of the Omer. What is the 33rd day? Lag BaOmer. And therefore, on Lag BaOmer onward, we rejoice once again. So if you are thinking about getting married, we don't do that usually during the first days of the Omer. Or if you are thinking of having some kind of great party, we wait until after Lag BaOmer. And I guarantee you that there are people in this congregation whose wedding date was set on Lag BaOmer, as is traditional to do. Well, this has been 10 minutes of Torah. Not 9 skin diseases, although we will read about some of them. Not 11 ways you find your house to be full of problematic things, but 10 minutes of Torah and the counting of the Omer. Shabbat Shalom.